Je donne la parole au représentant de l'Algérie.
Merci, Madame la Présidente. I extend my deepest gratitude to the Swiss Presidency for scheduling this meeting swiftly. We have convened today again because the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, particularly in the northern region of the Strip, who has reached a catastrophic level. While the international community celebrates today the World Food Day, Palestinians in Gaza are struggling to find food, basic food. Their present marked by suffering and deprivation, and their future uncertain. I thank USG Suya for her sober briefing that serve as yet another harrowing testimony from the humanitarian community. It lays plain the stark reality on how the Israeli occupying authorities are not merely disregarding international humanitarian law, but are trampling upon the very essence of human decency. For over a year now, the Palestinian people, especially those in Gaza, have endured suffering beyond imagination. It appears that the sadistic impulses of those responsible within the Israeli authorities knows no bounds when it comes to inflicting torment, inflicting punishment upon the Palestinian civilians. Civilians that must not be a military target. They are protected by the international law. The Israeli occupying power should fulfill its obligation in this regard. Especially the starvation of civilians as a method of warfare is explicitly prohibited under international humanitarian law. This prohibition extends to depriving civilians of objects necessary for survival and impeding relief supply. Surprisingly, the second vaccination campaign that commenced on October 14 reached more than 157 children on its first 2 days alone. So, how is it possible? How is it possible that we can vaccinate these children, yet we cannot feed them? How can we secure trucks transporting vaccines, but not those carrying essential food? The inevitable conclusion is that this is not a collateral damage, but a deliberate, calculated Israeli policy of starvation of the Palestinian people. Madam President, The International Court of Justice, in its provisional measures, ordered Israel, the occupying power, to, and I quote, take immediate and effective measures to enable the provision of urgently needed basic services and humanitarian assistance to address the adverse conditions of life faced by Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. End of quote. This Council, through Resolution 2728, explicitly reiterate its demand for the lifting of all barriers to the provision of humanitarian assistance at scale. The response from the Israeli occupying power has been nothing short of disdainful. Closure of crossing point, increasing restriction on access, and the immoral use of starvation as a method of warfare. When we last convened on October 9th, last week, we raised alarms about the state of humanitarian assistance, noting that September, this last month of September, saw the lowest levels of aid since October of the previous year. We then expressed grave concern over the behavior of the Israeli occupying authorities, who denied or impeded nearly 80% of humanitarian movement between northern and southern Gaza in September. The response of the Israeli authority to our concern? More restriction, more killing of Palestinian civilians. Yesterday alone, 68 of them. In the past week alone, a mere 6 trucks per day have been permitted to enter Gaza. A number so paltry, it borders on the absurd, given the scale of need. Before the crisis, I want to remind that there were more than 500 trucks per day. Madam President, the occupying powers' disregard for Palestinian lives doesn't stop there. They have escalated their tactics, adding new depth of cruelty to their actions. On the night of October 13th, they struck tents in the vicinity of Al-Aqsa Mosque, Al-Aqsa Hospital. The result? At least 4 people burned to death. Burned to death. Yes, you heard correctly. Burned to death. This is the occupiers' perverse demonstration of how sacred they consider human life. They consider Palestinians' life. The situation stands on the brink of further deterioration, with the potential adoption of legislation by the occupying power, halting UNRWA operations. Such acts would strip Gazans of the backbone of humanitarian actions and further complicate the United Nations humanitarian mission. Madam President, it is clear that the Israeli authorities are not listening to anyone, not the ICG, not the General Assembly, not this very Council, not even their closest allies, but this Security Council has the authority and possess the tools to ensure the enforcement of its decision. The time has come for decisive action. The lives of countless civilians, Palestinian civilians, hang in the balance. I thank you.
Je remercie le représentant d'Algérie.